So yep, we're a couple minutes in. We got a good crew of folks here. Appreciate all the folks coming in. And as you were saying, Umka, it is varied people with experience, and so there will be no dumb questions. Feel free to raise your hand, drop in the chat. We're monitoring that, and we will get to it and walk through it. And so let's go ahead and why don't you introduce your Hyperfy.how site that you've been giving so much love and attention to, and then we've been kind of adding and tagging onto it. If you can go ahead and give us just a quick understanding of what you've got there, and then for the rest of the call, we're going to walk through some really important first steps when we're working with Hyperfy. And so go ahead and Umka and lead us the way forward.
Well, I was actually going to say I'm more than willing to do that, but maybe you want to give a quick intro on V1 to V2, what Hyperfy is, before we start going into how to do stuff on.
That is a good point. Yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen. So eventually we'll throw down a survey here to see how familiar people are. I see a lot of familiar names here from V1. And so Hyperfy, when I'm asked to kind of give it an explanation as to what it is, I usually say it's a platform to build things onto. And when I say things, these are experiences, virtual experiences. And the cool thing is it's 3D, and so you can build and use 3D assets, and it's basically a game engine. I know that one of the key use cases is as a game engine, but I see Hyperfy, the platform, as much more than just a game engine. Its ability to bring people together inside of a natural 3D environment and have them interact. And so it has all of these features and capabilities that enable this type of thing. And it's also open source, which is awesome to be able to add to it and remix it as needed to build for specific use cases. And so when we think of people that want to use or should be thinking about using Hyperfy, we threw this document together. So this is the Hyperfy.how page where it's kind of describing what is Hyperfy. And we think of some audiences, communities, bringing communities together. This has been something that I've seen over the last few years has been a powerful feature of Hyperfy, to be able to create an environment, to have people log into one place, either listen to music live or to watch a stream live, or whatever it is, and group stay together and be able to chat with each other. And so we think communities are one area where the technology will help a lot. Artists as well, to be able to create 3D sculptures, 3D experiences, immersive experiences, and guide people through an experience of that kind and be able to build that. And so we see a lot of artists coming in and doing that with us. We also have content creators that are either in the world, they're creating almost like a game, but it's more of just an experience, something fun, a hack, a vision that they have within their head of something they want to express. And one of the call outs here is this Blockbuster environment, which is truly immersive. Highly recommend. We'll drop some links here so you could check out something that was built some time ago with the V1 technology, and is representative of something amazing you can do is recreate a feeling and recreate memories and explore worlds that are part of a person's imagination. And so we think content creators have a special place here, using the technology to create worlds from their minds and share with others as well. And then, as well as the classic use case we have is for game developers to be able to create these dynamic experiences. And with V2, we're seeing a lot of upcoming capabilities and flexibility to create game loops and have advanced NPCs, basically with those AI agents being able to have a very dynamic environment where people could play and experience and play with others as well within the same environment. And so we see those types of audiences, those types of sample use cases. I mentioned V1, V2. It's basically an evolution. The current iteration is V2. V1 has been around for a couple of years. It was a proprietary platform, and now it is opened up with the V2. It's been open sourced and opened up to the community. But we still look at V1 as what is a starting point of what we've been able to, what the Hyperfy team has been able to do. And we're going to build on top of that and have functionality that's a lot of people have really appreciated about V1 into the V2 platform.
Awesome. Great overview. And yeah, just to segue from that, proprietary to open source. So if you're not familiar with open source, all the code is available on the repo. So we do have, some mega developers here. Ash and Sowery are doing the bulk of what stays in the core code and is kind of not untouchable, but is like the backbone of everything. Most other developers build on top of that, the core functionality. So everything is open source, but we do have a couple of people that are working on the fundamentals that make the game engine work. But it's also open code. So feel free to hop on that repo. I'll pop in. I can go ahead and share my screen too. I think we can only share one at a time though.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
No stress. And yeah, if you like dark mode, this site is also available in dark mode. Up here in the top corner, you can switch it. So yeah, let's take a gander at what this is. So Hyperfy.how, I opened up and started to kind of make a doc site. I started it originally as like an awesome Hyperfy V2. Sowery was working on some docs at the same time already on Hyperfy.how. But I started to swallow those in and a bunch of HackMD notes and everything else. So we're kind of making this the go-to resource now. Not only will you find useful guides, but you can also get direct resources about what people are doing in avatar stuff, the agents he mentioned, tips in 3D design. You'll find a bunch of links to tutorials and repos. If you're an expert in any of the things, feel free to contribute. You can contribute directly to this. On the bottom of any page is this edit this page. And when you click it, it will bring you right to, it's going to show, for me, because I'm actually the creator, it brought me straight to the page. But for you, it'll say fork this repo, and then it'll bring you here. So you can go right into the page and make changes, commit, and submit them if you feel like it. I know that was probably over some people's head. We'll get more into the GitHub flows later on. But let's, so if you were to go to the page, you start here. Click here, it's going to bring you straight to Quickstart installation. And right now, V2 is very much in development. And so things are changing fast. And if you want to build a world, you need to run it locally, meaning on your machine, and eventually to share it with other people so that you could have people join your world and network and interact. It's going to need to be hosted. We'll get a little bit into that later on, but to start playing around and seeing how it all works, you can go here. So let's take a step back though and show you a little bit what a current V2 world looks like. So we can throw this link in the side here. This is the current V2 sandbox that is up and live that Ash has been putting a lot of work into. Nice, beat me to it, Max. I like it. Go team. So we could do a little stress test right now. Everybody hop in there if you want. For me, it's gonna hopefully load. If you ever have the loading bar just kind of seem to like stick, try refreshing the page. Right now, that seems to be a thing that is happening. Ideally, that would be resolved soon. Also, on your local, when you're running it, sometimes you just need to refresh if it seems it's taking a bit longer than you anticipate. And as you see, it's kind of all loading in here. Also to help with if you're working on, maybe a slower internet or system, Ash added this great graphics option here. So you can change your shadows. You can lower the resolution down so it can run a little smoother if you have limited resources. I'm going to keep it on low so that I can stream ambient world at the same time. As you can see, it's kind of taking a second for me to pop in here. My internet today is being a little bit wonky.
Yeah, and so what we're showing you here, it is going to be what a world that Ash, the developers, have spun up for us to play around in. And as this loads, I'm also in there as well.
Are you in there?
Yeah,
I'm going to stop sharing. Why don't you share yours on that part?
Yep. Let's see. See if it loads correctly.
There we go. You could full
Funny enough,
screen
it
too if you want.
says disconnected, so I'm not sure if I got disconnected. But are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not sure why it says disconnected. Has anybody else joined the world? Let's see.
You could type enter and type directly in the world chat and see if anyone pops up there.
Oops. It's interesting. Let me just refresh the screen. It says disconnected, so I'll just reload just in case. Maybe we are stressing out the sandbox. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I see some folks.
Yeah, awesome. There you go.
Yep. And so what we're working through here is to kind of show you first what a world looks like. And look, everybody's with their default avatars. And so this world is enabled for build mode. So you could switch between regular just player mode, which is running around talking, and then one thing that you are able to do from as a player, you're able to put in, or actually, so you can hit tab, and that will open up your build menu, and that opens up a variety of other features and capabilities that is reserved for builders. So you're able to pick up things, move them, fly as well, and then also, which is the best part, is you can actually inspect something. And so on the screen here, I press the R button. So I'll do it again real quick. So pressing the R button will open up the inspection window, which will then let you look at an object that you're looking at the moment, or have that you're hovering over. And what you're able to do is download that object. We'll be pulling that object a little bit later. It looks like this is a customized version of the HyperDuck. Let me see if there's any more details there. No. And then if you haven't noticed, also these elements are also selectable. So this little floor platform can be moved and inspected and also downloaded. And so with that, I see people moving things around. We had in a competition where people built entire homes based on these snappable items, these building blocks. And this is an example of one of the person's houses that they built just from those snappable objects. I'm going to actually steal a couch here. I'm going to download it, and also this chair. So, and then we'll bring that into a world that we can spin up locally as well. And so downloading objects is pretty straightforward if the world owner allows that. There's also a way, taking a look at this contribution from the community, somebody built a hype object, which is a GLB, that's a model, which then also has some code embedded inside of it in order to control it and configure it. you can see here we can control the clone count. So I'll put 50 here, and you're able to select different settings on it and control how it is in the world, how it's displayed. And so you could also increase the size of those. And let me actually pump this up to a higher level. And so you can look at the code, and the code is editable within the screen. So I think that's one of the powerful things what we have with V2 is you're able to configure how this behaves in the world. And the same thing for a platform. There's like an elevator off in the distance somewhere that's like moving up and down. So there's different ways to animate and make objects interactable. And so any questions out there or comments?
Well, just to also kind of follow up on what you're saying, for some people that are like, oh no, this seems like so much more work than V1. Just a reminder, like everything is in dev right now, in development. So the end goal is to, grandma can do this. So as all these elements, these side panels, the ability to work with code gets in, people are making hype apps. So there's a new format called .hype. And so you'll be able to just drop hype in, and you'll have command, like on this side channel, you could just type, 50 da da da. So it's going more and more towards no code every day. So if you're like, oh no, I can't do this because I'm a designer, not a coder, no stress. Every day, something new that makes it easier for you is coming out. If you do want to dabble in trying to create your own app, we'll get to that point in these tutorials, where there are some pretty good resources that you can tinker with that.
Yep. And so that is just a quick preview of the worlds. There's several more that are being created and hacked together. I'm sure if Dr. Doge, if you could throw your link to your Westworld in here as well, that would be pretty cool for people to check out what's the art of what's possible. And so now we've shown you kind of the neat things kind of the basic things that you can do in the world. You could look at models, download the models, move them around, and kind of snap elements together. Then we can start talking about, okay, well, I want to do this for my own world. I want my own private world to build on. And so before we dive into the hosting aspect, is there any questions or anything from a kind of basics perspective that any of you folks are wondering about before we go into the question about hosting and how to go about that to create your own personal world? And so there's
We have a question about the 3D NFT metadata pools. It's in the works. PZ, who's in the chat here, it's definitely got the farthest repo going on some of that stuff. And so short answer, yes-ish. Long answer, very soon it'll be a lot easier to do that for the 3D NFT metadata pools.
Correct. And
the engine does support it. The flow for it is not currently completely ironed out right now.
Yeah. And that was a feature that was or is in V1 that is available to be pulled and is being looked into in order to extend the core engine to support blockchain and other ways to retrieve 3D data, 3D assets.
So I can bounce back to my screen if you want to kind of go through that. Cheddar had a question about escape to get out of camera mode.
That's a good question. I feel like that was I'm pretty sure that was the way to do it. Having to kind of move your mouse or kind of press the escape button to get your control back.
I see Sound Interesting raise their hand. Do you have a question, comment? Would you rather speak it, or are you? I see you're typing now. So, am I sharing my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
How can I dupe builds from voxels to Hyperfy? If you have it in a GLB, you can just drag and drop it into your world. Is it a voxel format? In which case, getting it converted from that into a GLB would be a great flow, and I bet Howie would have a really good way to go through that process. But let's slow down for a second, and we are definitely going to get into more like model and optimizing and using the plugin and stuff like that. But just to dial it back a second, let's go into how you can start a local one. And it looks like Howie's typing on the side there, so if maybe he can side chat with you on that. But yeah, we'll get to that. All right. So if you were to go to the Hyperfy.how site and you enter it, it's going to bring you right to the Quickstart installation. Again, because people are at varying levels, feel free to chime in if there's certain things that you don't recognize. I'm going to do my best to kind of act like I'm coming to this page, and I don't have a GitHub. I barely know what a terminal means. And now all these numbers and commands are here that I'm like, what's going on? So I'm going to kind of go from the basics and come in like that fresh. So some of you might gloss over at the beginning, but hopefully this will kind of help everyone. So first off, if you are on Windows, it says here WSL2, and what WSL2 is running Linux within your Windows. The reason this is recommended is it creates a virtual machine within your Windows, keeps things isolated, and it is a much better building process. If you're on Mac, you don't have to worry about this. If you're on Linux, obviously, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're on Windows, you're definitely going to want WSL2. It's created by Microsoft, so it's well supported. It's trusted in all these. If you were to follow this link, it will actually bring you to right here. Kind of explains what I just said, and this will bring you directly to the Microsoft page that guides you through setting up WSL2.
And what I would say is, although technically possible to use your Windows command line to host a world and get it running, like Omka said, the WSL is the easiest one, as it comes preloaded with things and access to spin up a world. But I have tried command line, and it does technically work using PowerShell. You just have to be very mindful of some of those dependencies, which for me, the first time I got access to the code, I tripped up so much getting the right node and messing around with kind of setting the right version for node. And so that is one big takeaway that I took away when I was starting to host my own worlds, is you have to make sure you got the right environment for it. So WSL is a pretty decent approach for that if you're on Windows.
Yes. So if you were to go here, you would open your PowerShell or command prompt in administration mode. So that would look like I'm only sharing my screen, aren't I? Okay, hold on. Am I sharing my whole screen, or is it just showing the window?
Just the browser.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me switch that. Now you can see Discord. You see everything now? Okay. So if you're in Windows, to get to here, you can go to your Start menu. You'll see Command Prompt, Run as Administrator. It's going to ask you if that's okay, and it'll pop it up like this. So now you're in Command Line as Administrator, which means like all the rights to download stuff are approved. And so if we take a look at what it tells you to do right here, they have like a package downloader already set up and recognized. So you just need this command. You can copy it. One useful tip when you are in command line, you'll notice if I try to do Control V, oh wow, that normally maybe in Administrator allows you to do that. If you notice that Control V doesn't copy into your command line, the workaround for that is to, after you have copied something, just right click and it'll drop it in there. That's kind of you might like, I thought I copied this, where's it at? So if you just type in WSL -- install or copy it in there and hit enter, it's gonna automatically download Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a distribution from Linux. It's kind of the most common one, and so that it defaults to that. If you want to dive more into Linux stuff, there's other ones too that are useful for different things. But for the purposes of Hyperfy.2, the default Ubuntu is great. Hopefully this is just going to update my WSL and not create conflicts. I think it should be all right because I didn't uninstall. I kind of thought it was going to tell me, hey, you already have that, but we will see. So it'll take a second here. What it's doing is it's downloading the Ubuntu distribution. I believe it defaults to Ubuntu like 22 or something. You don't really need to worry about that right now. We can check the version. You'll see this WSL1 to WSL2. Also, when you do the install, it's going to WSL2 by default. Most things are right now, so don't worry about which one do I do. If you run the command, it's gonna throw you in here. So yeah, it's defaulting to Ubuntu 2004, which is great. And yeah, as far as WSL, that's pretty much all you need to worry about in this moment.
Yeah, and while that's loading on your side, I think one other kind of point is the question about, do I need to self-host, or do I, what is the way to host this to get my own world? And so while that's loading, we can talk a little bit about that. Is that you can, this is open source software, so you are able to take the code right from Git, the GitHub place, and spin up a world, basically load a server and have that server serve requests so that you can access the world. And so that's what we refer to as self-hosting. And so there's a variety of ways to go about that. And so you can use, as Omka has put on this screen share, there's a couple different services you could do. Use a VPS, a virtual private server, and a couple other of these apps or platforms that allow you to spin up a server and load the Hyperfy code into it.
Definitely. When you're just getting started, I would recommend tinkering on just your local version for a little bit. We do have some community members like Rustan that recently went through the fly.io and has a video that he's editing down. So we'll have a more in-depth guide on how to get hosted. We also have some useful community members that have created a couple of hosting options for you that make it really easy, and they'll host it for you. Kind of takes away any of the stuff. It is a paid service. It's low cost. You could pay in crypto if you want to. And we'll also have HP and Zenko go through that. either towards the end of this call or on the next one, we'll kind of dive into that.
Yeah.
But for today, I think it's good to focus on just getting it up and seeing a world locally on your machine and interacting with it.
Yeah, we have a good question from someone's interesting, where he's asking what's a basic reason for hosting on a service. I would say it's to reduce the complexity of having to maintain or deal with the command line. Like if you're not comfortable with command line and dealing with internet servers, basically hosted service providers, then the hosting. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So, sorry. The reason you want to host at all is because you can't invite people to your world if it's just running locally on your machine. So to have any network things and interaction, you have to put it up on a server that other people can access. And that's how you would get it linked to a custom domain. Yes, you can self-host and link it to a custom domain. And through any of these hosting options, like how he's pointing out that he's also offering, we'll have those teams kind of guide you through that process too. It's pretty painless, especially if you go through one of them to get support. Rustan, who built the Blockbuster world that we mentioned in V1 and has a lot of developer design experience, was pretty fresh at the hosting aspect, and we went through it step by step the other day, and he was able to do it pretty painlessly as well, and made a little video. So he's editing that, and we'll have a more in-depth guide on that really soon.
Yeah, very good point. And I'm sorry we didn't make it clear enough. You can run a world locally, a local host on your own machine, and you'll have access to it, but then you won't be able to really have others access it. That's would be the most basic reason to have hosting of any kind, is in order to build a world, share it with others, and have others be able to visit it. And then, of course, engaging with service providers would reduce the having to deal with command line completely, like you were mentioning. It looks like we got Ubuntu up and running now, so I'll let you go and walk through the next steps.
Yeah, no problem. So you see here, it downloaded, it installed it, and it says it can be launched via this if you want, which you could do right here in the command line. But also you can just go into your start menu, type in WSL, it'll pop up here, and you could just click open, and it'll open it up here. Don't worry about that. It's just telling me I have another package manager called Dino installed, and it's complaining about that. You won't see that, so don't worry about that right there. So we are here. We've done this nice handy tip, and now we're looking at Node. So Node is Node.js, and what Node.js is a way, it's open source, and it's what helps things create servers. And so maybe you've seen npm install before, and what that is often mistaken as Node Package Manager, but it doesn't actually stand for Node Package Manager. They have a nice little aside, but basically it's Node Package Manager for all practical sense. And so what Node is what's going to allow you to create basically a local server, and this is where you build things on. You don't really need to know about the details of how Node works. It's not a language that you're going to have to learn or anything. It's just what everything needs to run on. Maybe Howie at some point can go into more geeky details of that. So if you were to go here and click download, it would tell you to save it somewhere. Go ahead and just do that. So it'll save it here. And just like with any other download, it's going to ask me like, hey, do you want do you want to download this? I'll just go ahead and do it. Hopefully I don't create conflicts for myself because I do already have all this downloaded. I really should have just opened up in a fresh profile today, but here we are. So pretty quick, pretty painless. So you can go ahead and open it. MSI stands for it has a launcher built into it. Okay, so it is telling me that I already have Node installed. So basically though, you would click next a couple times, all the default settings are good, it'll install it, you click finish. Just like installing anything else on Windows. So pretty straightforward there. If you have any issues, feel free to ping me. So now Node is installed. Now you'll see here that often in projects, Node updates versions fairly frequently. And so you'll notice that certain projects are running on Node 18 all the way up to like Node 24. This one specifically has been built on 22.11.0. If you use anything from that and above, it will work. But for just being safe to make sure nothing conflicts, it's best to go to the exact version. And that's the case with like any projects. And so there's a handy thing called Node Version Manager, or NVM. And this helps you switch between different nodes. And this is pretty straightforward too. To install or update NVM, you just run this script here. You can do the curl or the wget. Wget is Windows Git. I'm going to pull packages in. Details on that, we don't want to spend too much time on full crash course in dev stuff, but we can send some links to you of some handy things like Odin and different things, free code camp that have some really nice quick courses to kind of get you into all that. But we want to get into a world now, so I'm going to kind of steamroll ahead a little bit here. So we can actually close out of that because that's a command prompt, and we can go right into WSL. But also from command prompt, if you open up a fresh command prompt and were to just type WSL, it's going to actually, now I'm in WSL. So if it says WSL here, it's the same as me going to start WSL. I typically just do it straight through here because I have some settings in my command prompt that I didn't want to have to reset in WSL. And so here I am. Now I'm in WSL. And you can verify that. I think this is the command. No, WSL -- version. What are you saying? Why are you lying to me? -- list. What? Oh, is it yelling at me because I just reinstalled it? So I may have created conflict for myself, but I can resolve that really quick here. So what I just did was make sure the command prompt had access to WSL. If you're not a Linux user, the sudo apt is a sudo password. I don't know if I really need to get into that. If anyone hits that issue, let me know, or the easiest way would just be to open it from WSL. I don't really want to dive too much into that right now. So now I have WSL in here. Yep, and it's telling me, you can see that I have it all running here. And if you see on the bottom here, it's saying So it's this is actually relevant. So if you were to go to NVM and try to use this curl, it's going to say you don't have curl. Then you'd have to go down a rabbit hole of installing curl. The workaround of that is to use wget because it comes pre-installed with it's a Windows thing, so it comes pre-installed with WSL. So if I were to copy that into here, what this is going to do is going to install NVM. And NVM is Node Version Manager. And this is directly from their repo. This is where they recommend grabbing it from. And yeah, if I've gone over anyone's head, please let me know. So this has just told me, hey, you already got it. So once you do have it, you can switch your versions with NVM use and tell it which version. I also use FNM, which is another node manager package. So for practical sake right now, because it's going to yell at me, I'm going to type FNM, but you would type NVM. So I'm going to do FNM use 22.11, not dash dot 11.0, which is the version right here. Again, this FNM for you will be NVM. I like FNM. So if I were to do that, don't tell me you broke my shit. Okay, it'll tell you using node 22.11.0, which is exactly what I want to see. If for some reason you don't have 22.11.0, it's going to tell you that you need to install it, in which case you do NVM install and it'll set it up really quick and tell you it's done. And then you can use NVM use and put the version. So now we're in node 22.11.0, which is what we want. And so now we can move on to these next steps. And these quick install steps are coming directly from the Hyperfy repo. So right here, we can post it in the chat here for you. Do I need to address any of these questions? You guys kind of handling it good on the side here? Are we good?
Yep, I think we've been taking care of them. I think one thing, a call out from how he does it, explaining, although you could download and install a standalone version of Node, it might be a better idea, or actually you should, is what he's saying, you should use NVM from the start and just have Node manage the versions directly, which is what I have going on. I shared a screenshot that you could technically install Node via command line instead of directly downloading the file and installing it as options. But that is I think that was about it. If anybody's asking any questions, definitely drop them in the chat. We'll jump on it as well.
Thanks, Howie. You're right. So yeah, once you had NVM installed, if you do this NVM install, it will actually install it for you. So that should handle that. I will update this page and put the wget and the curl commands directly here on the page as well. So next we want to get the code that Hyperfy has up and available. And so we're going to be using Git. Git is something that was created in the early days of open source software development that helps people create version control and the ability to share with each other It's, GitHub is an extension of using Git that allows people to share and to keep track of who's contributing and stuff. And so any Git command will require you to have Git. So I already have Git. You can go to Git here, Git downloads. I should include this in the docs as well. If there's anything that you're going through Hyperfy.how and you're like, hey, wait a minute, it didn't go into detail on this, please just let us know. You can contribute directly. I'm also going to add a little tally form to the site for non-devy folks to just fill out a form and say, hey, I recommend adding this, and it'll push it to us and we could take care of it for you. So Git is here, just, I don't know, to kind of get a vibe of the room. Is everyone familiar with this kind of stuff? Do you have Git already? Do I need to kind of walk you through this process as well? I guess for video's sake and reference later on, it's probably good to just point this out now too. So if you go here, you choose what you want. You might ask, hey, we just put Linux on Windows, so do I need the Linux one if I'm on Windows? No, actually, you can just do the Windows one. And the reason for it is because the way WSL is set up is it's able to access certain things on your Windows and use it within your Linux. So you would actually still want to just get the Windows one, even though we just set up a virtual machine of Linux in Windows. You still want to get the Windows one. Yeah, so you would click here, and I'm assuming most all of you are probably going to be 64-bit unless you're working on an ancient machine, in which case you're probably going to have issues with all this anyways. You can also use WinGit. No, I would just do this. Click here, same thing, save. Basic download stuff. It's going to give you an exe. You open the exe, and it'll have you install, just like you would install anything else. And so it's doing that for a second. So once it downloads exe, same thing like you're installing anything. Click the next. All standard. There's no like special choices or anything, and it'll get installed. And Git kind of runs in the background, so you're not going to have to like go to start menu and find Git. It's just there once you get it. And once you get it, I'll kind of brush past because that's pretty self-explanatory. Now you can use this git command. So clone, what does clone mean? Clone means that you're taking all this code and you're copying it, you're cloning it. You don't need a GitHub to do anything that we're doing right now, though it is nice to start one. And the reason for that is because you can do things like fork. What fork means is that you're making a copy of this into your account. And so this is my fork. And what that allows me to do is that if I were to use GitHub and push changes to my fork, it's not going to interfere with the main branch. It's just happening on my fork. That you can share with other people if you start doing different things. And if at some point you do come up with something and you're an all-star and you think it would be good to add into the main, there are ways that I can say, hey, read from my fork and do a pull request. For all practical purposes right now, you don't really need to dig into that too much. But we can point you towards some like good GitHub use flows later on. So yes. So now we're going to clone. If I'm going too slow, let me know. And so there are a couple ways you could do this. So git clone HTTPS, the command's right here. So you could just copy this, no problem. Throw it in here. And that's the command we're going to do. Where I got this HTTP from is right here, code, copy. But this is just going to copy the URL. So then you would have to type git clone. Easiest way, copy this, paste it into here, and click enter. So you'll notice that the repo ends at .git. This my world is the name of your world. So it defaults to my world. You can change it right now if you wanted to whatever you want. But to stay in line with everything that's on the install page, I'm going to keep it as my world. Do I have WSL open somewhere? No. So there we go. It just copied that whole repo. Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. I have multiple things happening here. So to back up for one step, if I type WSL, it's going to start WSL. Now the way that Ubuntu sets up on your machine is it puts it in its own network box. All this stuff just got put into this Linux on your Windows and Ubuntu. I have other distros that I use for other things. And so there's a bunch of stuff here. You always want to be working out of your home folder though. And so to get to your home folder, you type cd tilde. Is that tilde? So this is above your tab. If you shift press it, it'll do that. Now I'm in my home folder. So from here, to keep things organized, I recommend making a directory, which is mkdir or dir, or make directory, space, and then, give yourself a folder name. It could just be Hyperfy, it could be like my, let's call it New Worlds. So I created a new thing just to stay organized. So now I want to go into that directory with cd. So now I'm in New Worlds. So from here is where I would want to git clone. It's just a handy tip to keep things organized. So if I clone into here, it's going to download it all. Relatively quick process. Boom. So now you need to go one step further. You'll notice ls is showing me what's in my New Worlds directory. And now I have a My World directory. So everything from this point, I want to be in that directory. So you got to do cd again into that world, into that directory. So now I'm in cd. If I ls again, it's going to show me what's in there. So this is everything we just cloned into that folder. So we cd'd into my world, and now we want to do this command. And what this command is doing is it's copying the .env.example into our own .env file. What .env is your environment variables. And so I'll just go ahead and do that really quick. But to show you what's going on there, I'm going to open this up in VS Code. For most of building in Hyperfy, you don't need to do anything in VS Code because you can code directly within Hyperfy. But we could go down a rabbit hole later on like VS Code, which is a development an editor that is used often in coding. And so I'm just going to open it up in my VS Code so that I can easily show you the file format here. And so what that copy command just did was it took this file and it created this file. And what this file is some global controls that dictate certain things that can happen in your world. Most of these you never need to mess with. So basically this is saying it's running from your world folder, which is where's my world folder?
And by the way, just a quick note, in order to edit the env file, you do not need a code editor. You can do that like in Notepad. You can edit and update these if needed.
Yes, you can also do it straight from the command line. I can show that. So most of these you're not even going to have to worry about right now. You'll notice that this admin code is empty. And what this is the builder mode that Maximus showed earlier. You need to be an admin to be able to build. So once you do host your world, to make sure everyone can't just, do things to your world, it's best to set an admin code. And then from within world in the chat box, you would do a /admin space and then whatever your code is. And it gives you can share that with other people if you feel like it, and then they can be a builder on your world too. But for right now, we're going to leave that empty. This is telling us it's going to go to our local host 3000, which is the local instance that it's going to allow me to open up in my browser. So you don't really need to know much more about that right now. We did that. So now we can run npm install. And this is going to install everything that's in the package JSON. What that means is I should just leave this open for practical purposes, is that the package and the building on it has come preloaded with all these. We're actually going to install all these things too that help make it run. You don't really need to know. This is like icons, it uses React, it uses Three.js, but instead of having to go through manually and get all these individually, a package JSON creates a script and says, hey, make sure that you get all these things. And that comes already in the package, in the clone, so it's like preset. So this is what we're gonna actually trigger right now by doing npm install. If I just were to press enter right now, it's going to look maybe like nothing's happening. Let me show you. Oh, wait, what are you yelling at me? Oh, did I not switch? Stop. I didn't do npm. Okay, so you'll see it yelled at me there. Good point. So the reason it yelled at me is because I didn't switch my node version. So I wasn't in 22.11.0, which now I am. So now I'm gonna go back into my new worlds. Oops, new world. Why are you yelling at me? Okay. That's not where we just were, is it? Shit, hold on a second.
Yeah, I could have sworn it was New Worlds with an S.
Right?
What does VS say? Yeah.
Good point. Sorry. New worlds. There we go. There we go. So we've already cloned it. So now we're going to do an npm install. if you want to step-by-step see everything that's happening as it installs, you could do a -- verbose. And this will show step-by-step everything that's happening. It's going to go really fast, ideally. And so boom, it did it. Now it says 2 vulnerabilities here and 1 high. And you might be like, oh no, I see some red stuff. What's going on? You don't really need to worry about this right now. What that is, there's a lot of packages that are going into this, and not all of them might have updated certain dependencies, but it's still working. And so this is just saying that, somewhere within the chain of all the dependencies, somebody may be using a slightly lesser version of something. These will be fixed. So it's not a problem to be worried about. I might even be able to do an npm audit fix and just take care of it. We'll see if it does it. Oh, did I fuck up again and not go down to my version? I did. God damn it. Okay, so I guess we're going.
It looked fine, by the way. The warnings, I think, are usually fine. I usually see a hard error about version if it doesn't like.
Exactly. What? Okay. So we npm installed already, and we're good. So now we can npm run dev. What this is going to do is it's going to open my world up in my browser. Why am I getting that error?
Maybe you have to do an npm install again.
The fuck? I shouldn't. Why am I getting that error? Okay, so if you were to get the error, the easiest way to do it is just delete your node modules. I guess the demo gods really want us to show you all the possible, wait, but would this happen and this happen? So
yeah, that is the best way to learn, basically, is to go through all the ways that it doesn't work, and then you'll eventually find the right way, and you'll learn how to do it cleanly the future ways.
So what that told me is there were conflicts, so I deleted my node modules, and now I'm telling it to do it again. So now it should be good. There we go. So if that ever happens, the easiest way is node modules is everything that this package JSON tells it to download. So if you just delete that folder and restart it, that would happen. So now it's running on localhost 3000. This is the world that we just cloned. Nothing's happening in it right now, but it's here. I can move around. I can do stuff. Now you might notice, wait a minute, this looks a little bit different than that sandbox. Where's those other things that we had access to? And that is because those are currently on the dev branch. And what a branch is main branch is kind of where everything goes as more of a finalized form. And dev branch is where things are kind of being, as it implies, developed, right? For the question earlier about Web3 stuff, Solana is being worked on in a separate branch. So dev branch is like the new, all the newest things, but it also can change a lot day by day as things are being worked on. So if you do want to get the juicy fresh, you can get the dev branch, and that will make it look just like what the sandbox had down here with certain things. It might be, should I just show that process really quick? Because it's not too difficult.
Yes, definitely, Sean. Yeah. And then
Okay.
quick question I had, is there, right now I use Control C to close the process that's running. Is there a better way, or is it really just if I want to shut down the local host, do I just type Control C and that's the way to do it?
Yes. So if you wanted to stop this process, Control C.
Perfect.
If it doesn't work once, press it a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now that stopped it running. So yeah, good point there. So now if I wanted to get the dev branch, we would follow these steps right here. So you want to make sure you're in your My World folder. And we are, because I haven't exited this yet, so I can see that we are in my World folder right now. And you want to run these commands. What this is going to do is it's going to fetch origin, is going to be able to reference whatever branches are coming from the main repo. Origin is saying the repo that you've originally cloned from. So if you do a git fetch origin, press enter, you're going to say, hey, wait, nothing happened. But it did. And so now if you go here, this next step is git checkout. Checkout means I want to be on a certain branch. So if I were to type git branch right now, it's going to show me I only have a main branch. But if I want to have the dev branch from the repo, I need to have a dev branch locally to point it to. And so that's what this command does, is it's going to, in one fell swoop here for you, it's going to create a dev branch for you, and then it's going to point that dev branch to the original repo's dev branch. So if I do a git checkout -t origin dev, now it says, and then if I did a git branch again, you'll now see that I have a dev branch, and it switched to it. That's what checkout does. So if I did a git checkout main, it would switch it back to main. If I did a git checkout dev, it'll switch it back to dev. And if you want to access things in the main repo's dev, you need to be on your dev. So now I'm going to git pull. And what pull does, just as it kind of sounds like, is it's going to retrieve what's in that dev branch. Because we did the git checkout dev origin dev and pointed to it, it looks like it'll say already up to date. So now my dev branch should look like the dev branch that is in there. And that's pretty much the process right there. So now, if I were to run npm run dev again, I don't know, it put it out of order, maybe because of where my mouse was, but it's running 1.3000. I'll refresh the page, and now I'm on the dev branch. So now all the things that were on the sandbox are available here on the dev branch. And so you'll see a couple of things changed. I have build mode. I can change my settings here. I'm going to lower it down just for the sake of streaming and stuff. You can change your name. And yeah, so now we're in dev branch. Any maybe pause for a second, any questions where that was a little bit overwhelming? Want to take a breather? Anybody having difficulties if they're going through and doing this on their own right now? Good to move forward. What's the room say?
Oh, we got somebody typing, so we'll see what they say. And then in terms of a common issue that we all often see in the chats or in the Discord is once they get something local running, they try to drag and drop a file, a GLB or something into the world, but they're not able to see anything uploaded. What would be some of the things for them to look at if they're trying to drop model files into the world?
Yes. So that is actually a frequently asked question. I just split these ones up. So when I drag a model and nothing's happening, what's going on? Like we talked about before, your environment variables, possibly you skipped this step and so it didn't create your own. It auto defaults to an empty admin code, but if for some reason you had changed that, you would need to go into the chat, which you can do by pressing enter and say /admin space your password and press enter. This one, as we saw, like I left it blank, so I have admin rights already. But if you updated that, you're gonna have to press enter /admin, type your password, press enter, and then you'll be able to see this tab build mode up here. Then it's set up so that you can drag a GLB into your world. A GLB is a file type for 3D models. It's a pretty standard file type. And a lot of models that you'll find in different resources for models will be in this format. If you're super fresh, we're going to go into more depth on things like this, on optimizing and models later down the line. But probably the most standard platform is Sketchfab. One thing that we'll have to go into more detail about is optimizing assets. And so that's a little bit beyond the scope of what we want to get into today. But there are ways about making sure that your file is low in textures and triangles and geometries, so that it, as you keep adding more files, it's most optimized for the space and the usage draw of your site and your experience. So yeah, if we were to check out Sketchfab really quick, and let's go ahead and check out Polypizza too. So Sketchfab, you can explore stuff, and you might be like, oh wow, I want to portion my thing, and I would recommend that you slow down, and this is going to be a pretty big file. But you can search models. I don't know, say we wanted a book, and you can look at just free ones. So you'll notice some things will have different copyright. A lot of things are CCO, so copyright, open to do whatever you want with it. Some people request attribution, which it's recommended that somewhere within your README or your code, you say like, hey, I got this from this person.
Yeah, and so there will be an easier way to get pre-made assets that are free to use by the community. And so in that sandbox world that we were just in, you are able to download the models there. For the most part, I believe all of them are kind of free to use, and the ones that are snappable, that were used to build buildings, those are actually from the Hyperfy official developer. So they provided those for us to build with. And so those will be in a folder. I think you have a page where there's assets that we're sharing through those.
Definitely.
In the Hyperfy.how. Yeah.
That's also a good point that maybe we can bounce back to you showing the sandbox and how you can download directly from the sandbox. If you go into community assets, here's a couple that people have already worked on, so you can kind of get a preview of what it is. You can click this and download from here. We are working on better, like you said, better places where all these things are going to go. But for right now, I have them within the Hyperfy repo as well, all the ones that are on this community assets page. So you can go here and download it. Another great resource that some of the community has built, shout out to HP, is, did I not add it there yet? Sorry, I'm making updates today on this stuff, is the same people that offer hosting, Hyperworlds, are currently working on a app marketplace. Also, some of the core Hyperfy team is developing a Hyperfy branded page as well. It's in the making and will be out soon. You can check the Twitter for update on that. But right now there's also this app marketplace. So from here, you can also get some things that people have already created, even beyond some GLBs. If you want to start working with agents, and some of these GLBs are already synced up to allow for they're created into Hype apps. So you can already like add sound files to them. This controls your skybox, and you can actually drag these directly into your world. And they are not only a GLB, but they have some functionality already to them. But to take a step back, let's go ahead and say I want this truck, and I'm going to use this truck because it is well optimized as well. So I'm going to go ahead and download that.
Yeah, and then while you're doing that, real quickly, we did have a question from Dankex about the difference between main and develop. His question was, so main would be good to develop on. So basically he's asking if he were to start developing something, should he be using main or should he be using develop, the dev branch?
I guess my question would be like, what do you mean by develop something?
This is a fair question. So yeah, Dankex, if you could give us some just to build inside of a world. I feel like we're early enough where dev would be
dev. Yeah, for right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like very soon a lot of the recent changes in dev will get pushed up to main, but at the moment, for the full access to for all these things and for the good controls, I would recommend going into dev. It's pretty stable right now. Everything that's been recently added is working well, so you shouldn't have any conflicts. But within the coming weeks, it will be in main, and so that's kind of why we recommend through the installation main right now.
What I would say is, at a certain point in time, we will get to a point where people will have businesses built on top of the Hyperfy code or whatnot, and they will want to have the most stable, best version of it to build on and offer services from. At that point, you might consider main, but from just a playing with, trying to figure things out, play with, develop on, just kind of you're familiar with it, dev would be the best place, especially now since every day there's new features coming out. And so you're going to drop some files here for us. And by the way, I also in the Discord, I threw down a loot and a rover hype files. Those are my favorite ones that came out. It almost feels like, like so long ago. It was last week that MetaMike gave it to us. But I think these are good examples of just cool interactive
absolutely
models. So yeah, you can throw those in there too.
Yeah, definitely. Doge, feel free to drop any of your expansion things. And that makes a good point. Like currently in the Hyperfy community, it's pretty much 24/7. There's people all around the world. So things are moving in like the Hyperfy clock is much faster than a real world clock. So like Maximus said, 2 weeks ago. Feels like a couple months ago with all the things that people were doing. And the reason it's happening so fast is the .hype format and being able to share it with each other allows for a really quick iteration. And so, for example, Doge in the channel here with his world, he's taken those loot hypes and the rover hype and expanded upon them and added different functionality to them, and then created new hypes that kind of use the basis of what loot is. And loot is just an object that you can reference that is something you can pick up. And so the really cool thing about the hype format is that it allows for all these iterative processes. So right now, a lot of what people are working on is creating the like really building blocks, right? You want to be able to have an object you can add something to. You want to be an object you can refer to. Maybe you want to have an object that has animation. And so the core building blocks of that are being built right now, but also people are experimenting and making new iterations and versions that build off of that, and then reoffering those. And then somebody else picks that up, and it kind of creates this like amazing snowball effect of development. So we downloaded that truck. And now I have this GLB. So I'm just going to drag it into my world. Wow, I have a truck. And so this truck is the Hyperfizz truck. And we kind of were playing, some of us were playing and created a Hyperfizz in-world energy drink. And then Sko made this nice branding truck here. There's also some other Hyperfizzy things. Bogey made a nice fridge that has some drinks in it and stuff. We'll get a new version of this up there as well. And so I have a truck. And if I were to, so you might see that my cursor is like this right now. If I click, it's going to bring it to this circle. And the circle means now when I go to an object, I can access what's going on for that object. And so if you see and if I press escape, it's going to bring me back to my cursor. And so now I can move around the hub, which is like the very forefront of what's going on your screen, which is where these things are living. And if I press in, now I'm like in the world, you see. If I'm on the cursor, it's not moving things in my world because I'm actually kind of like on a front layer of the world, if you will, like the UI aspect. If you click, now like I'm in the world. So if you ever like, man, I can't, it's not working. Oh, you can also just click now. That's pretty handy. Come back. So now it's over there. I want to bring it back. So I'm just moving my mouse forward and back. And it's doing that. You can also bring it up with C and F. And let me drop it. If you use the scroll wheel, you'll change your viewport. And if I want to, say I want 2 Hypertrucks. So instead of dragging in another GLB, and doing that for multiple instances of stuff, Hyperfy v2 is currently set up so you can just duplicate in world and kind of refer to the original GLB for the other instances. And so what you would do if I wanted 2 trucks is I just right click on this. Now I have 2 trucks. So you don't need to drag in the other GLB. You just use your main one. And now I have a fleet of trucks. So now let's see what's going on with this truck. I'm going to press R, and it's going to bring up this app panel that references this GLB. What happened when I dragged in a GLB is it actually created a .hype file. What that does is now I'm able to add code to this GLB. Well, no, don't do that. Damn it. Oh, I got it. Sometimes the code will, I don't know if this has been fixed, but the code box, if it gets like up here, you can't get to it. It gets stuck. If you close the whole thing, you can get out of that, or you can refresh your window. That's a fix you might come across. So in here, this is just showing, if I go into the metadata, it's going to name it whatever your file name was. Say you just want to name it Hypertruck. You can do that. If you want to add to the metadata, like who you are, a link to your world or something, because once you do host your world, and like Maximus was saying in the play sandbox, and you can go to anyone's world if they've allowed you to grab the hype, and you can just take assets from there. And so it's nice to be able to put the metadata of like, hey, I made this, and here's a link to my world, and here's what it can do. So that when people start iterating or taking, it kind of, we're able to track what's going on there. And this will show you where the model is. Or you, this is, if, say I'm using that loot hype, you dropped it in the side here, right? Yeah, okay, so I can just download this loot hype. Go back to my world. And so this loot hype already has some code added to it. That's why it's a .hype format. If I drag in the loot hype, looks like it dropped it over behind the, it's this little box over here. So this is the loot hype that Maximus dropped in the side. And the reason it's a .hype is because it's not just this box 3D model, but it also has some functionality built into it already. And so let's take a look at what that is. So if you look here, you'll say it's named loot. And if I were to click model, I can actually change the model by dropping in another GLB and making the loot refer to that. So I don't know, let's just, for practical purposes. So now that loot functionality is actually a box or a truck, which I mean, it's not really what you would want, right? But just to show you how easy it is to change a model of something, you just click model and change your new model. But let's go ahead and just keep it as this. If I'm going too fast on anything, let me know. I know that people, oh, nope. So if you are selecting on an object, you can press X and it'll get rid of it. I'm trying to speed up a little bit because I know that we went over some super basics and I don't want to take up too much people's time and make things too long. So now we have this loop. If I press R, it'll bring up the Explorer. If I press code, it's going to show me what's going on with this. So this is the .hype format. So within V2, you can actually code .hype directly in world, which is super cool and is allowing for a lot of cool things. So if you notice, you know, we went through the whole clone, install, blah, and I haven't had to open up VS Code since. The only reason I opened it was to really show you the file, or like where the folders were. I don't have to pull anything up in VS Code while I'm working in Hyperfy for the most part. There are ways down the line, and maybe this will be actually the next one in the series. We can cover a little bit of hosting, but we can also cover up how to set up Cursor. Cursor is a AI editor for coding that we have some genies in our group. I think Doge and Howie and Bogey would be great people to kind of show how they set up Cursor to allow you to get some coding support from AI if you're fresh. And they've dialed in some really good flows that can bring you from zero to hero in a week and a half if you're Dr. Doge. If you had a chance to visit the Tatted Aliens world that he posted 2 weeks ago, Doge was not coding much. Now he's teaching people how to do it. So don't be discouraged and ask for support. Everyone's very helpful. So what this code is saying this top part here, every hype needs a configure. And what the configure is the props, the saying what it is, the metadata, if you will. So it's saying this is a model, it's a file type, this is its label. And so what this actually is this button right here. So this part right here, model file upload GLB true, that's this. This loop value is right here. This display name is right here. So say I wanted to add a new thing for people to be able to do on the side there. If I were to change this, I don't know, I wanted some over text that's going to go over my loop box. Oh, why do you yell at me? Oh, so I just copied this and I pasted it, but I didn't change the key. And so you'll notice now I have this red box. Red box is bad. Red box means something's wrong.
For some reason, I'm not seeing your latest screen. Can people see? What I see is code. Oh, okay, so it must be me.
I'll close down some of my tabs just in case. You see the red box there?
It might actually. Yeah, now I see it. Yeah, it might actually be me because I have like two worlds running locally.
So red box is bad. Red box means something's not communicating right. It means most likely something's wrong in your code. If you're not seeing the same things here and you see a red box, you know that. The reason in this instance, the reason that I have a red box is because these keys need to be different from each other. So because I just copied and pasted it, it had the same key here. So you can call this key like overname or something, right? Oops. Now if I save it, it should be there. Oh, you know what? It's because I'm not referencing it yet in the code. Okay, so maybe I'm jumping too far ahead for a second. Hold on. Let's take a step back. So what happened there is
Fractilians, you mentioned
yeah, what's up?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, you. No, you.
Okay.
So what I was doing by trying to add another field here, the reason that it didn't come up is because when you add a prop or something to the top of your code, it needs to be used somewhere in the bottom of your code. And so I didn't add somewhere that was referencing it yet. And so it wasn't working, I believe is why that wasn't popping up. This kind of flow is maybe a little bit next round around. For now, the easiest way to get going is to do things like go to the community assets, find these GLBs, pop in the Discord channels like dev channel, share channel, see what people are dropping. We're updating these pretty quickly. More people are adding different places, like in hyperworlds. Let's go ahead and see how one of those work. So they've hosted a couple of pre-made hypes here. And you can click download or you can drag and drop them into your world. So we're just going to do that. So I want this solar panel. I'm going to drag it into here, drop it, get rid of this. And you notice my skybox changed. And that's because the solar panel, did I drop it way off into the distance? So you're like, wait, where'd it go? You can click this bolt here. This will show you all your apps in the world. So if I click here, it could bring this up for me. If I click this, it'll tell me where it's at. Oh, it's hiding behind the truck. So that's a handy feature that was recently added, this App Explorer. Once you get a lot of stuff going in your world, you might lose it. You might accidentally like have scrolled your mouse and dropped it off into the infinity, and now you can't find it. If you go into this app panel with the bolt here and you click the target, it'll show you where it's at. Yeah, this will bring up the box so you don't have to actually go find it. Super, super handy. Really happy with this edition that just came out probably 5 days ago or so. So this solar panel model is what's controlling the functionality of the skybox changing. And so in the code here, what this is saying is that this first one, Sky, is saying that it's a JPEG file form, and I can upload a JPEG there. This is a HDR, which is kind of how skyboxes read the format for the, I guess the curve of it would be. Am I saying that properly, Howie? And then this is saying like how fast it's. So if we were to sit here, it's actually changing over time. So I think if we do, Doge, you've played with this one more. If I wanted it to go really fast right now to show it changing, what would the hour be on here, Doge? So basically on a clock, this sky will change from dark to light. And people like Dr. Doge have modified the skybox to create some other ones too that deal in real time, or you can set the hours to make it change really fast. And it's kind of cool. We're not going to notice any changes because of the setting on it in this moment, but pretty cool. I could add this speaker into here. Boom. Now we can have a party. So let's go into here. Again, we click on it. We are, and it'll bring this up. So if I wanted to add the MP3 to this, I click here. I can add my MP3. The rover is a good example. Where'd you have that at? Right here. Have I lost anyone? So let's take this rover and drag it in. Oh, the rover's that. We want the eye. We want the eye. I want the Fallout radio one. If anyone has that accessible really quick, which I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, so networking is being worked on where so things can be networked together, which means everyone in your world will notice something changing to it, or it can just be per player. The loot aspect is something that has been working with the rover, so if you notice that I can't see the loot anymore, it's because that rover picked it up. That's his job, find all the loot. So the rover stole my loot. So let's put some more loot back in there. Can I just do it from the app panel? I can't. I think I have to drag it back in. And where did the loot go? loop. Let's duplicate this. So the rover's on his way. He's like, oh shit, I see some loot. And his job is to come and collect loot. So I have all these loot boxes here. So as far as interactivity, he's going to go, boom, he got that loot. So that's a little bit of work people are doing with agents and stuff as well. So he's going along and he's collecting all this loot. There's also a health that.
I would say like a lot of our game mechanics right now probably lean on a physics system. So you could do like Fall Guys or like a game with ball or something. But if you look in the developer channel, Ash has been working on some action things, like health will be native to Hyperfy at some point. And picking up weapons is getting easier. And you'll just need to like connect like a physics trigger from like a melee weapon to like a person and then take their health away and stuff like that. So that should all get easy too soon.
Awesome. Thank you for chiming in there. Yeah, so where should we go from here? Does everyone have any questions so far on the install, on setting up, on seeing how easy it is to drag GLBs in, on hypes being kind of the coding format to add interactivity, on some places that you can find some assets already set up as hypes or as GLBs? Where should we go from here? Should we wrap it up pretty soon and move on? And next episode, we kind of move on into more depth stuff. I feel like we've been here for a little bit. What do you guys feel? I think that's probably a good call. Anything else? Any specific questions or anything else, Max or Sauri or anyone want to say?
We appreciate you doing this. No questions, though. But thanks. It's been cool.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you guys. Max, Fractilians recording. Maximus is helping map out everything and keep the flow as well. And like we said, we're recording this. We'll do some quick edits on it. We'll throw it up on the YouTube, the Hyperfy YouTube, and we'll reference it on the Hyperfy.how site. We will make a transcription using AI and do a quick edit, so there'll be a written format of all of it too. And we're going to keep doing this every week on Wednesday. We're going to slowly go up from, basics like this into working in Blender, optimizing assets. Next week, we're probably going to do hosting and concentrate on that. And then we'll go a little bit deeper, people will give like how to rig a VRM, how to network your sites together, how to work with game dynamics. So if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see within this on the Hyperfy site, it's all going to go right here. Or if you want to offer a workshop, there's no skill level. Everyone's a noob from a different angle. So you might know something somebody else doesn't know. So if you go to this link here, there's a tally form. Click this button, it'll pop it up. If you want to offer something, you can just submit it here and it'll go to us. I'm going to add another one on here too for what do you want to see? So if you have a specific workshop that you want to see somebody do, you'll be able to fill out a quick form and we'll point it towards somebody that can offer that for you. So we're gonna switch it up. Different people will be leading different sessions and stuff. So, but yeah, I think that's good. We've been here a while. Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully that was helpful. Take it easy. Don't be afraid to hop in general or dev or check out voice channels. Everyone's always doing something, and then ask questions. Ask everyone. Next time we'll have a little special GLB treat for you.